Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're tackling something that trips up, well, basically everyone at some point. If you've spent any time at all around software development or even just poked around a few tech tutorials, you've absolutely heard the names Git and GitHub thrown around. And usually they're used interchangeably, right? But here's the secret. They are not the same thing, not even close. So our goal today is to completely demystify this dynamic duo. But first, let's talk about a problem we've all faced. You know the drill. You've spent hours on a project, you make a quick change, and suddenly, bam, everything breaks. You're frantically mashing the undo button, but it's way too late. Or maybe you've used that classic, totally chaotic file naming system. You start with draft, then it's draft_final, and before you know it, you're staring at draft_final_v3_really final. It's an absolute file versioning nightmare. It's stressful, it's super inefficient, and honestly, it's a huge risk to your hard work. To get us out of that mess, here is our roadmap. First, we'll look at the code time machine. Then get the local tracker, followed by GitHub, the cloud network. After that, we'll do a head-to-head comparison and wrap up with the dynamic duo workflow. All right, jumping right into section 1, the code time machine. Let's solve this versioning nightmare. Before we even touch Git or GitHub, we really need to understand what a version control system, or VCS, actually is. Think of a VCS as a literal time machine for your code or your documents. It intelligently tracks every single change over time. So instead of cluttering your desktop with 50 different files, the system just takes neat little snapshots of your project at specific moments. If some wild experimental change completely ruins your project, no need to panic. You just use the VCS to travel right back to a safe snapshot. It is the ultimate safety net. There's this Reddit user, Kmato1, who explained this concept flawlessly to someone asking for a really simple breakdown. They said version control is basically like checkpoints in a video game. Imagine you're about to fight a really tough boss, or, write some incredibly complex code, and you want to trigger a checkpoint first. That way, if you completely destroy everything, it's totally fine. You just restart from the checkpoint. That exact peace of mind is what version control gives you. Moving right along to section 2, Git, the local tracker, and the open source foundation. This is actually a pretty funny story. Git was created back in 2005 by Linus Torvalds. Yeah, the legendary creator of the Linux operating system. He needed a reliable way for a massive community to contribute to Linux, so he just built Git himself. And he gave it a brilliantly self-deprecating name. As Torvalds wrote in the early README files, Git can stand for Global Information Tracker when angels are singing and everything works perfectly, or it can stand for a truckload of shit when it inevitably breaks. It is remarkably fast, but man, it can be incredibly uncompromising. So what is Git really? Underneath it all, it is entirely free open source software. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. It runs locally on your machine. You install it right onto your computer, and you interact with it mostly through a text-based command line interface. And because it's completely local, it operates offline. You don't need a Wi-Fi connection to save your checkpoints or undo a mistake. It is just you, your hard drive, and your code. One of the coolest things you can do locally with Git is something called branching. Imagine you have a main project timeline, the official version. With Git, you can essentially spin off a totally safe, isolated workspace to work on a bug fix. You jump into this branch, make as many commits or checkpoints as you want, and test things out completely independent of the main project. Once you know your fix works flawlessly, you just merge it right back into the main timeline. It lets you experiment fearlessly without ever breaking the core project. Okay, section 3, GitHub, the cloud network, and the social portfolio. Now, unlike Git, which is local software sitting on your hard drive, GitHub is a service. Launched in 2008, it's a web-based hosting platform built entirely on top of Git. It basically takes those local Git repositories and safely stores them in the cloud. Because it is a website, it gives you a really nice visual graphical user interface. You can actually click buttons instead of typing commands. But of course, to use it, you absolutely need internet access. GitHub also piles on collaboration tools that Git alone doesn't have. Things like pull requests, issue tracking, and project boards. And I really want to emphasize why this matters so much for you, beyond just backing up code. GitHub has effectively become the social network for developers. If you are learning to code or trying to land a job in tech, your GitHub profile is basically your online resume. It's a public showcase of your portfolio, the tools you've built, and how you collaborate with open source communities. It proves to employers that you can actually build things in the real world. Being active there is absolutely crucial for networking today. Which brings us to section 4, head-to-head comparison. Let's spot the differences. Let's put them right next to each other. Git, that is your command line. GitHub, that's your visual graphical interface. Git lives locally on your laptop. GitHub lives remotely in the cloud. Git was born back in 2005 as a scrappy open source project, while GitHub launched in 2008 as a business and is now actually owned by Microsoft. So the big thing to remember here is a difference between local and cloud. Git is the underlying software engine, and GitHub is the cloud service that hosts it. Looking at this breakdown based on Simplilearn's data, the deeper technical and business differences really pop. Notice who they compete with. Git is fighting against other version control software like Subversion and Mercurial, but GitHub is competing with other cloud hosting services like GitLab and Bitbucket. Also, while Git is 100% free forever, GitHub runs on a freemium model. They have free tiers for individual users, but they charge for big enterprise features. Remember, you can totally use Git without GitHub, but you literally cannot use GitHub without Git. Finally, Section 5, the dynamic duo workflow, because they really are better together. So how does a developer actually use these two together on a random Tuesday? It builds step by step. Step 1 happens completely locally. You use Git to initialize a brand new project on your computer or clone an existing one down from the web. Step 2, you do your actual work and use Git to commit those changes, making your video game checkpoint, still offline. Step 3 is where the magic happens. You use the push command to send those local checkpoints straight up to the GitHub cloud. And step 4, your teammates use GitHub's web interface to review what you did and merge it in through a pull request. So I want to leave you with a thought as we wrap up this explainer. Could you build the next world-changing app purely locally, just using Git on your laptop? Or is the global collaboration unlocked by platforms like GitHub the true secret sauce of modern software? Git gives you the control and the ultimate time machine, but GitHub gives you the whole world. Think about how you manage your own projects and how embracing both of these tools could totally elevate your workflow. Thanks for hanging out and exploring this with me today. Keep building, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.